there going, that's the problem is that with a lot of these shit, we'll look at some more of this stuff too today, and we've done it before, but when you just build wealth, money, I want to be rich, these are very vague concepts, right? And I think a lot of what happens in the finance industry, especially in personal finances, you get kind of caught up in the money, right? And the idea is that I'm trying to, make the most money. And it's like, well, no, finance is essentially about what you're doing is you're taking what resources are available to try and accomplish a goal. And you're trying to find the most efficient way to do that. All right. And this goes back to the first time you had a human town or city, right? We go back 20,000 years ago, and maybe it was like Tyre was a city, and it's north of like Israel now, and it's still there, but it was probably one of the early human cities, right? No concept of money, wouldn't have been invented, right? No concept of finance, but it's like, okay, we've got to feed the soldiers, we got to feed the farmers, we got to feed the fishermen, we got to feed the townsfolk, right? We got to distribute the food, we got to distribute the cloth for clothing, we got to distribute the tools for weapons and all that stuff, right? You got to have some nerd sitting there who can count, going, okay, we got X amount of stuff, this is how we're going to distribute it. There's always got to be that guy somewhere. That's the finance guy, the accounting guy, right? But back then it wasn't about the money, it was about, we just don't want people to starve. We want to keep the city intact, right? We don't want people rioting because they're hungry, right? But it wasn't, at that point, it was still finance, but it wasn't about the money. It was about distributing the resources, right? So if you get back to that sort of basic concept of what is it that these people want? What are they trying to accomplish? How do I get the resources that are available to work for them? Then it becomes a much easier thought processing task. I mean, it's still complicated, but it doesn't have to be brutal. And just, if you're doing this by yourself at home, start with really sit down. What do I want? And then what's the most important? Because it might be with Lacey's example, I sit there and go, well, because of your budget and stuff, you might have to put some of the travel shit on hold. Because that's the least important priority on your list. In which case she'd probably say, okay, fine. If it gets me the first two, I have more money and I can save and I can get a place that's my own. She might say, yeah, I can put shit off.
Right.
But the most important thing, understand what your goals are. Next important thing, understand where you're at. And then the last part is you just got to figure out, well, how do I take where I'm at and make it where I want to be? That's where the magic happens in finance, is that last step. But if you're just doing it on your own, just start with that. Because if you just start, it's just about save and build wealth, right? You're like Dave, you missed the whole point. The whole point is she wanted to buy a house. That was the big thing that she mentioned. We knew nothing else about her because we didn't really delve into it, but that's where I would start with. Okay, you want to buy a house? That's priority number one. Then no, we shouldn't be getting rid of your savings because that's your fucking down payment. And it's saving you from, like, if you get injured or you're in risk or something like that, right? Why would we get rid of that? 2, no, don't start paying shit off super early. It's going to kill your credit. Buy the house first. Then you can do that because it won't fucking matter once you sign the mortgage.
Right, you already have the house.
Right. So, yep.